Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, you fucker.
I thought you were frozen.
I thought you were frozen too, dude. I didn't know. I was like,
Oh my God. You fuckers.
I was like, no, not again.
Oh my
Let's
God.
keep this intro. Keep going.
No. Greetings and salutations. And welcome to the return of the Rink Moose Hockey Podcast. Season 4. Fuck, this is our fourth season of the show. Season 4, episode 6 of the Rink Moose Hockey Podcast, a weekly episodic podcast where 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5 good friends gather around a table and discuss all things NHL and their implications in the fantasy hockey universe. I am one of your hosts, as always, Nick Costu, returning and also making his grand return, Kyle Nice. Kyle, how are you doing on this trade deadline Monday?
Ooh, and just like that, we're back in action in Rink Moose. Took a huge hiatus. We deeply apologize for that. Life happens, but what better time? What better time to come back right at the end of the trade deadline, right at the eve of a really good playoff push here. And hey, we're welcoming back an old friend of the show. He hasn't been on for a while. Even
everybody's favorite Italian meatball,
Joe
Joseph
from the
Cavallari.
Bridge.
Guys, thanks for having me on. It's been way too long. I will say that. It's been way too long, and appreciate being on the show. A lot of interesting stuff to discuss today. And I will say, Nick, I think you are the Arizona Coyotes of technology.
Oh,
You're just
tanking.
a wasteland where technology
goes to die.
It goes to die.
That's
For the record, this was supposed to start at 8:30. It's now 9:20 on a Monday night with these technological issues. Well, hey, I'll tell you what, the budget here at Rink Moose, it's gone a little off the rails, because of this hiatus. The income has not been coming in as it usually does.
Mhm.
And so we couldn't really afford to keep our producer on. So
That's right.
So money, the coffers are short,
Yeah, we lost all of our sponsors by doing this. So
So you really are like the Arizona Coyotes.
We're
out
got to
of
build
pocket
our
right
way
now.
up. We got to build our way up. We got to draft prospects. We got to get up. Yeah.
We have to make a reputable product that people will actually watch.
Yes.
But I mean, the kids will always come back. The university.
Yeah,
kids
no,
will
and
watch.
and hey, it starts with this trade deadline show, because when we ended, rightfully so, when we went on hiatus, you know what I call that point of the NHL season?
The death zone.
The dog days. It's just this awkward period where the Leafs are already in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The 8 teams in the East are already decided. We knew this in December, and then it's like, what the fuck am I watching for?
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
So I feel like now you got 20 games left for each team. You got a compelling playoff push. You got fantasy playoffs and fantasy. Kyle's all geared up for that. So lots going on.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, so without further ado, I mean, we want to get into this trade talk here. Lots happened today. Another edition of Trade Center on TSN was a whopping success. And we got plenty of trades to break down here. We'll start with about a week ago. I want Kyle's input on this one. His favorite team, of course, Colorado Avalanche. Joe Sakic gets on the board and trades Drew Helleson and a 2023 second round pick for a little man by the name of Joshua Manson.
Oh, reminds me of
not
our
so
Josh.
little. No, maybe not so little. He's a big brooding force there on the back end.
Yeah.
Just like our Josh. And so kind of there was some lull ever since the Toffoli trade, and then Sakic came out with this one about a week ago. What did you make of this, Kyle?
Well, I'm glad he kind of got out in front of it and did it early before the drama started happening. But I mean, long story short, this is a perfect trade for the Colorado Avalanche. The price is actually quite large. This Drew Helleson guy, he's a legitimate defensive prospect. He was on USA's Olympic team, and he's pretty darn good in college too. And obviously the 2023 draft is a good draft. So a second rounder from there is a little tough to stomach. But listen, Josh Manson's exactly what they need. They needed that big presence, a guy who can move bodies in front of the net. They've got tons of slick skating, puck moving defenseman. They didn't need any more of that. Bowen Byram should be coming back. But if you got a Byram and Josh Manson second pair, I mean, you're laughing at that point. And it just kind of gives you that kind of physical insulation. And hey, lo and behold, the first game he had like 10 hits. So he knows exactly what he's here to do. And I think he's going to be able to do that.
Wow. Joseph Camilleri.
Yeah, I actually, and me and Kyle don't really usually agree on a lot of things when it comes to
especially lately.
Who we want to play deep. It was just there was the rink moose separation anxiety. We couldn't hash out our differences on the air, so we had to do it through a Facebook Messenger.
That's right.
But, in terms of the Manson trade, I agree with Kyle. I think that they needed a bigger defenseman, someone who plays big. He's going to clear at the front of the net, and I think when you look at Colorado's playoff history, they struggle against teams that are heavier built. Teams like Vegas. And I think this year, a dark horse they could face in the playoffs could be Calgary. And Calgary is a team that plays very heavy, that's Sutter style hockey. So, having someone like Josh Manson there to clear the front of the net is great. I don't know too much admittedly, about the Hellickson guy they gave up. But I think if you're in Colorado, you're in win now mode. You probably should have already won with this team. So this is a great trade for Joe Sakic, and he also did it before the defense market got absolutely crazy, thanks to the Florida teams. So good on Sakic, and good for Colorado to acquire him. I think that was a great trade.
Bingo.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their defense now, and it's like they're following the classic model if they want like a more shutdown guy and a puck mover on each pairing. So you got Makar and Taves, the best pairing in the entire league, as your first pair. Your second pair is going to be Josh Manson, and when he comes back healthy, Sammy Girard. So you got a big man and then a puck mover, and then your third pairing is kind of just going to be a mix between Eric Johnson, Jack Johnson, and Ryan Murray, right? Or your boy Byram, right?
And Byram, when he comes back.
So I think that's a solid like group of guys for the playoffs.
It's an embarrassment of riches, even though Girard has struggled this year. I mean, we know what kind of talent he has. So it's an embarrassment of riches. But Josh Manson completely kind of fits, completes the puzzle there in my mind.
Well, you know what though? Like you shouldn't praise him too much though. Because I do feel like his game is kind of deteriorated. Like I remember 4 years ago, Leaf fans were like, Josh Manson, we're trading for Josh Manson. He's the sexy young D prospect out of Anaheim, you know? Yeah. And he kind of lost his luster. Like the whole, like any talk of him in Anaheim, any sexy talk kind of went out the wayside. So I'm kind of curious what happened with his game. I'm kind of curious what happened, and I'm curious how he'll perform in the playoffs. I just want to make it known, like, as much as we're praising Sakic, this guy isn't some fucking, all-star. He's solid, but his game's definitely dipped a bit.
Yeah, but I don't think they need an all-star, right? Like, I think that's the point. Like, they have like Makar and Byron.
They don't need Giordano. They don't need.
No. Come on.
Well, I mean, I don't think like the Avs need a guy like Giordano. I think someone like we'll get to that eventually, but I think he's a better fit for someone like Toronto. I think the Avs just needed, look, their mantra is, look, like, we have all the talent in the world, we have all the skill in the world. You know what? Let's try to get somebody that can play quote unquote playoff hockey, and that's what he is. But to your point, Nick, I agree with you, because I remember like years ago, like where like the Leafs were like, oh yeah, like we should get Josh Manson too. He's like this young guy from Anaheim. Like, it's amazing how that time passed. I keep forgetting like that's like it's like 2017, 2018, and we're like, we're 4 years down the road.
Oh my God. Then he would have been like worth a first and a prospect, and now he's going for a second and a prospect.
For the record, just to kind of perspectivize this, if this guy does what Ben, that's my new one. If this guy pulls a Ben Sherratt in this playoffs, then it's 100% worth it. That's all he's got to do is play like Ben Sherratt, and that's all you need to do. Sure.
So Joe Sakic, he follows that up that following day by trading away longtime Colorado Avalanche player and fan favorite, at least to Kyle, Tyson Jost. The Tyson Jost era in Colorado kind of comes to a awkward end, and frankly, he never really fit in there in my eyes. So what did you make of this, Kyle? Kind of end of a marriage that wasn't really quite a marriage.
Yeah, it kind of sucked, honestly. Like he had a lot of promise, and he has got an amazing character to this day. Really good guy that everyone liked in the room. Really good year in college right after he got drafted. And that's another reason Matthew Nyes stay in college. But he never worked out in Colorado for whatever reason. Like you could see flashes of skill, but the points never came. However, when I started hearing about this Nico Sturm guy, I'm like, who the fuck is this schmo? And then I'm realizing this guy is perfect for the Colorado Avalanche system. I did a bit of reading on him, and he's like more of a health nut than Nathan MacKinnon. He's like fully like just a machine, according to sources. He's got like, third line production, but this guy is absolutely dialed in terms of his preparation and his work ethic. So I welcome him. I can't wait to see what he can do, and I think he's a good fit on that third line.
Joseph.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Nico Sturm, but I always thought that Jost was like, every time I thought of the Colorado Avalanche, I'm like, fuck, like I wish the Leafs could get a guy like Tyson Jost. And like, it was just kind of shocking that he was traded. But I don't know too much, admittedly, about the underlying stats of Nico Sturm, but if he's a better fit for the system, then that's great for them. So I'm sort of neutral on this trade. To me, this is still like a small potatoes type trade, and I feel we're only talking about it because Kyle's an Avs fan. But
could be.
I mean, listen, if he's a good fit for the system, then that's good for Colorado. And like you said, like this just keeps adding to the embarrassment of riches that they have. So let's try to make it out of the second round this year, right, boys?
Yeah. Well, the other thing this does too, and because we just talked about this from a defensive perspective, but Nico Sturm is a 6'3", 210-pound center.
Yeah, he is a big boy. I was just looking at that.
And that is something that Tyson Jost can never be. I mean, and they don't lean on Jost for offense. So this is the kind of guy that can, again, against those heavy teams like you mentioned, he can kind of put the Avalanche in the fight a little bit more.
Right.
Next up, another minor deal. Don't want to spend too much time on this one, but again, we got to cater to the New York Rangers fan. Frankie Vetrano traded to the New York Rangers for a 2022 fourth round pick. Kyle, why is Vetrano an asset for the New York Rangers in their playoff push?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I don't know too much about Vetrano other than just versatility. Like it seems like a guy you can throw on your fourth line, be completely satisfied, or you can maybe even move him up to the second line if need be. So just that bit of versatility. I think he's got a little bit of a bite to his game, and he just like when I saw the trade, I was like, this guy is a good Ranger. Like it just seems like a good fit to whatever they're doing there. And then we can get into the next couple guys too eventually, but just versatility, good fit, depth move, and you didn't pay much, so I think it's a good little fit there.
Yeah, I mean, is Laff going to lose any ice time because of this?
His leash is shorter, and there's no doubt about that.
You got to figure with all these forwards they added, and we'll get to the other one shortly. But
short.
No,
leash.
but. Florida, they only have a plethora of forwards, right? Plenty of assets to go. So I guess if you're going to trade away a guy, create some salary cap space for the deal they made later, I guess it made sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of cap space and a big one, and I'm going to go to Joe on this one. Montreal Canadiens acquire Tyler Smolonic. 2023 first round pick, 2022 fourth round pick, a huge package for everybody's favorite defenseman, Ben Sherratt. Joe, what did you make of this one, buddy?
Like I think I've made my opinions known about Ben Sherratt for a long time. He's not good. There's no
so good, man.
There's no statistics, analytical or actual statistics that suggest he's a good player. And I understand like why Florida did it, because that's the market and what it was. And listen, I got to say, Kyle, whoever is pulling the strings behind that trade in Montreal, I don't know what the French word is for cheers, but congratulations. You were able to get a first round pick for a glorified pylon. And that's fantastic.
My God.
The thing about Ben Sherratt is that even if you look at like his underlying numbers in the Leafs series, for example, or, you know, he was outscored every time he was on the ice. This is not a good defenseman. This is the facade of, you know, the Carey Price and the Shea Webers of last year that won that playoff series for Montreal, being grouped into the fact that, look, this is like a big, heavy defenseman that we need. I think that was a massive overpayment. He's not even the best defenseman on the trade market. I think that was not like, I mean, that was not a good trade for Florida. However, to contextualize this a bit, it might be something that they need because we also don't know how long Ekblad's going to be out for. So this might be a defensive replacement. However, comparing, you know, Ekblad and Sherrod is like comparing, you know, Nickelback and Pink Floyd. Like there's no
Nickelback is fucking sick.
It's apples and oranges, you know. And yeah, hey, listen, everybody likes Nickelback. I like Rockstar every now and then, but I wouldn't give a first round pick or a fourth round pick and a fourth round pick for you know, to go see Chad Kroger. And Ben Sherrod is essentially Chad Kroger. He's got some good tunes, but he's not that good. So I will say I don't like the trade. I'm not.
Do you want to know why that your story based on the playoffs is off base, completely off base? Because first of all, the whole narrative around Ben Sherrod is the kind of defenseman you want in the playoffs. Throw the analytics aside for the Leafs series. Like obviously we're talking about the Leafs series. The defense pairing was Weber and Sherrod. And go figure, why did the Leafs lose the series? Because fucking two best players couldn't fucking score. And if you're telling me that Ben Sherrod didn't have something to do with that, I think you're completely off base.
I don't think he did. I mean, look at how are his numbers this year without Shea Weber? The team is terrible. Like the Montreal Canadiens are an awful hockey team. Like he's not. Like this guy's not.
They're not. They're not. They are. They made a coaching change and now they're top half of the league since the coaching change.
Okay, but that's not. They're an awful hockey team. They're like third last place in the league. They're statistically a terrible team. All their analytics are awful. Their defense is terrible. Their forwards are awful. This is not a good hockey team. They will be, considering the fact that they, you know, managed to get all these picks. And I have faith that the new regime in Montreal is better than the Bergevin regime. However, the team is not good. And, you know, if you want to talk about Sherrod's impact in the playoff, I think a lot of that was sort of buttressed by Mr. Weber, who, you know, is going to be a Hall of Fame defenseman one day. I don't see what people see.
It's both of them. It's absolutely.
I disagree that how come this year the Habs are so terrible defensively without Shea Weber and Sherrod playing number 1 minutes. He's not good. Like
there's a lot of factors to their shittiness this year. A lot.
But you pin the Habs playoff success on Sherrod, but then you won't.
He was a big part of it, and he's a playoff style defenseman. And if you don't think that that pairing struck fear into the top line,
I don't think they did. I think
crazy.
If you want to talk about contextual factors, you know, one of the reasons why the Leafs, you know, struggled in that series as well is because of the fact that they had Alex Kerfoot playing second line center. I think the whole dynamic would have changed if you had John Tavares out there, because I think Nick Suzuki would have his hands full with John Tavares, and the pairs would have to been split up. You would have to account for John Tavares too. And listen, full credit to the Habs in winning that series, but I think I saw a hilarious tweet the other day saying that Florida's going to win in the first round, you know, in 5 games because of the fact that, you know, Huberdeau and Barkov scored all these goals, and some idiot like Kyprios is going to credit it to Ben Sherrod. That's the treatment that Ben Sherrod gets. He happens to be part of the team, and they say he's this big, heavy defenseman. But if you actually look at his numbers, he's not really that good. So in some, because I know we have a lot of trades to get through, I'm not a big fan of this trade, and I think that was a massive, massive, massive overpayment for Florida.
So at the end of the day, we can establish the Habs got a massive haul, check, yes. And B, correct. An NHL general manager agrees with my point of view on Ben Sherrod.
There's a lot of NHL general managers that agree with your point of view, or you know, there's a lot of NHL managers that make trades, and just because an NHL general manager makes trade doesn't necessarily give it a seal of approval. Go ask, you know, Peter Chiarelli or Ken Holland when he's like, we just don't have the cap space. I'm like, I wonder who, you know, put them in that position. So just because an NHL GM sent rubber stamps doesn't mean it's good. Also,
but this happens to be a top probably 3 club in the NHL. So it's probably a good thing.
Well, yeah, okay. But Florida also, their emergence is just this year, Florida.
Okay.
When's the last time they've won a playoff series as well? And frankly, for that matter, there's still a lot of problems with Florida. And I don't think we can discuss them on this show because we have too much to discuss, but they've won Bubkiss yet. Okay. So, and they might not even win the Atlantic Division when this year's all said and done. So let's pump the brakes on the fact that, yes, right now they're a top 3 club in the NHL. However, just because top 3 clubs can make bad trades as well, it does. And I think this is a terrible trade. I think this is, if they paid less, I would have been like, sure, but it's not that it's a bad trade. It's an overpayment for who Sherrod is.
I think he's solid. I think Sherrod is a solid defenseman. I think I've heard from too many players that he's a shitty guy to play against. Like he's just a menace and you don't want to go up against him. That said, this price tag was way too high for a Ben Sherrod. I agree with that. He's solid. I'd like him on my playoff team in a 5-6 role. I would, but I think this price is too high, and I think Florida overpaid. I'm comfortable saying that.
I can get behind. It's a very high price tag for sure.
It's a very high price tag.
Huge price tag, but it's awesome news.
Speaking of high price tags, and this one was probably the not the biggest shock of the deadline, but just like it made me feel the least educated. I clearly needed to do some digging after this one. Okay. The Lightning acquire Brandon Hagel. 2 4th-rounders for Boris Kachuk, Tyler Radish, and 2 first-round picks.
Yeah,
incredible. The first thing I looked at was who's Brandon Hagel, and I looked him up in fantasy, and he was 4% owned. Right. How is a guy who's 4% owned in fantasy, just goes to show you how little production he does, worth 2 first-round picks? Like all GMs are talking about, all TSN is talking about, is how much, like, currency wise, these first round picks are so valuable. Oh, the coveted first round pick. You're going to have to trade to Foley to get a first round pick. And fucking Hagel gets 2 first round picks.
Yeah. I can explain this one.
Yeah. Go for it.
Perfectly. He's from Saskatoon. So that's a big factor.
That's your lead factor.
Yeah. That's my lead factor. B, he's a young guy with term on a really great cheap deal, and he's put up, actually, if he's going to be third line, this is excellent third line production in terms of his numbers. The way I see this trade, because he's got term, they basically get Brandon Hagel as a rental this year and next year, so that's why there's 2 firsts there. Like, it's basically like we don't have to do anything next year because we already got this cheap good guy. This is like Barclay Goodrow times 2 years kind of thing. That's the way I see it.
I think it's a little presumptuous to say that he's like Barclay Goodrow.
Well, his numbers are better than Barclay Goodrow.
Well, I think like his 2 first round picks for someone like that is insane. Like, this guy is like, he's a great, like, I think he's going to be a good addition to their third line, but I just don't know how you justify paying 2 first round picks for a guy that, like, if you look at his production, it's not great. And I mean, listen, when you've won the cup back-to-back years, I guess any move you make, you can justify by saying, fuck it, we're going all in. We think we have the team, but man, that's a lot. And I think Tampa's like, they're really reaching to try and develop that third line that they now have lost again. That's what I see them doing with all these moves. I just don't know if these guys are the same sort of caliber as him, and I certainly wouldn't have paid 2 first round picks for Brandon Hagel.
It's ridiculous. It's this simple. That is the price you pay for, like, scores, 70-point scores who you don't just develop in your system, who don't just come out of nowhere. For a third line guy who's just there to, like, check and play hard and play to the defensive aspects of the game, playoff hockey. Those guys you can get for second round picks, third round picks. Why do you have to give 2 first round picks for this guy? It's like it's as if they're outsmarting themselves.
The market, it's so saturated, and like the demand is so out of whack, where it's like teams are like, third liners are demand. Like, Jeff O'Neill made a good point, I think 2 weeks ago in Overdrive, where he's like, back in my day when we talked about a first round pick, if you were moving a first round pick, you were getting like a star back, usually a star or a guy with a lot of talent, young potential. Now it's like guys like fucking like Ben Sherrod and this guy Hagel are going for multiple picks.
No.
Some of them in the first round. It's nuts. It's absolutely insane. Like, how have we devolved to this point where and listen, I get it. Like those guys are important in the playoffs, but again, like Tampa didn't win its cup primarily because of the third line. Tampa won its cup because Point, Kucherov, those guys were scoring. And of course, the great Andrei Vasilevsky, and now you're giving up 2 first-round picks for like a depth guy when you still have all these stars. And I neglected to mention Victor Hedman as well. I apologize, but that's another star. So, it's just like, it's insane that guys like this are going for like, the market values these grinders like at such a high level that it's just, to me, it's nuts. Like when I saw that trade, I even tweeted, like, the meme of that guy blinking, like the blinking shock face. I couldn't believe it. Like I was like, how did this happen?
Yeah, very apt.
It's a little jarring. I think it's a little expensive, but I think we're also underrating the player. He's on pace for 30 goals. And he makes
and rightfully so. Yeah, it's only a second season, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, he's young. He hasn't hit his prime, and he makes 1.5 million until 2024, 2025.
The contract is good. I'll give it that.
Incredible value. So it's like they wanted him for the 2-3 years at this cap hit. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, listen, and I guess if you're Tampa Bay, you always. I mean, I guess in the contextualize it, I mean, you can always pay him less too because it's Tampa Bay and the league hasn't figured out, I guess, that state income taxes don't exist in Florida. But my problems with the NHL, we can discuss that another day.
Yeah. All I can say is I look forward to like watching Leaf Tampa games and zeroing in on this Hagel guy. Like this guy's going to be under the fucking microscope.
Let me tell you, our long-awaited Leafs Tampa series may actually come to fruition.
Yeah, I know, right? It's been like 5 years in the making.
Very interesting.
That'll be fun.
Yep.
Okay, another move where you could say very high price tag associated with this player, albeit this one I actually knew about. Bruins acquire Hampus, Linholm, and Cody Curran for a first rounder, a second rounder, another second rounder, John Moore and Urho Vakanainen.
Oh, God.
What did you think of this, Kyle? A very Boston Bruins trade, if I may say so myself, acquiring another big brooding defenseman before the deadline.
Yeah, and is this guy not just like a Bruins player? This guy's huge. This guy's a massive defenseman with semi-actual decent numbers. So, I mean, it is a huge price tag. I'm not surprised they would be willing to pay that kind of price. But like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to digest this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that this is what they have to do. Like, Boston can't be not committed to this. So it makes a lot of sense. It is a Bruins defenseman, but I don't know. Not
to mention, like, right after they extended him, they signed him to like a big deal, like 6 to 8 years, something like that.
Yeah, I guess they like him.
They really liked him.
Listen,
I don't have a pulse on Boston this year, so I can't quite get a read on this one. But I mean, it will work. It'll make them better.
It's hard to have
go on, Joe.
Yeah, it's hard to have a pulse on Boston because I when you look at this Bruins team, like they're outside of their first line, their forward group isn't very talented. Admittedly, less so now with like the departures of Krejci and other players. But the thing is, I always thought their strong suit was defense, right? Mm-hmm. And now they go out and get this guy, they pay a premium for him, and have now signed him to this long ass contract. And you have to remember something too about Boston. They don't have Tuukka Rask anymore. Tuukka Rask is a Hall of Fame goaltender, right? That guy was the architect of so many deep Boston playoff runs. And they don't have him anymore. So it's very difficult to get a pulse on Boston. That being said, like with respect to this trade, I get like the move was a lot, but fuck that fucking 8-year extension, like immediately after, like that's nuts. Like that's
52 million. So that's an AAV of like 6.5 or whatever.
Insane. Like is Hampus Lindholm like that good? Like I hear a lot of people say, like, I mean, I looked at his numbers and stuff like that. Like he's okay. His analytics are okay, but you're right. This is a very Boston Bruins signing, and where it's not so much about the analytics. It's about this guy's just a big fucking guy and he's going to clobber you. So I think that's what they're going up. But though I think Boston finishing that wild card spot most likely, assuming, we'll see how they play the rest of the season plays, but likely to finish in that wild card spot. I don't think that's going to scare a team like Carolina or even Florida. Like I think they're just going to get run over in the playoffs.
I mean, just to put that into context, that deal, that's the kind of money in the range of, I guess his comparison was Cam Fowler. He's getting 6.5. Giordano's getting 6.7. McDonough 6.7.
Yeah, I don't think he's in the caliber of that defense.
Yeah.
You know what? Just kind of hearing Joe go through that, and I totally agree. It's making me think that Boston could turn into this like wild card in terms of their ability to win series, just because it sounds like they're going to go like very defense heavy. They're going to go very kind of trap style, shell down and be opportunistic. They're going to be like the Islanders of this year. That's what I think they should do. And I think that's where they could find success.
Well, here's the pulse on Boston. You asked what the pulse is. The pulse is this could be Bergeron's last season. So if we're going to make a big fucking move, big splash, pay up to get this defenseman, hell, Bergeron probably even made the request to get that defenseman, and they do what he says. Right. And they get him to appease Bergeron. And as long as Bergeron's playing like a Selke Trophy winner, their identity is going to be defense, right?
When does he get the Selke Trophy?
And then Joe, you ask about the goaltending. There's a guy by the name of Jeremy Sweeman out in Boston, who's had an incredible season. He's been my fantasy MVP. Yes. And he is a star. He is a star. Like I would rank, for those who don't know Sweeman, if you look at goalie prospects, you have those Russians, Askarov at the top, Spencer Knight at the top, who else,
Levi.
Kyle? Devon Levi. I'd say just a hair behind that kind of group is Jeremy Sweeman. So he is a young, sexy goalie prospect. He's just never quite been in that tier, but he's just a cut below. And I like to see that he's the future of Boston goaltending. And I think he's come out of nowhere this year. And I think he's wowed a lot of people. Yeah,
Swayman's been great. And I don't doubt that. I think the issue is, though, young goalies in the playoffs first year, that's where my logic is going. And, Tuukka Rask, like I said.
Hey, Spencer Knight. Spencer Knight was fantastic last year. He almost bailed out Sergei Bobrovsky when he lost the season for Florida.
Well, almost is the key word, right?
But, well, hey, I mean, still, he was incredible. He was great. He was not the reason Florida lost that.
I just think so much of Boston's success over the years in the playoffs, with obviously, I'm not discounting what Bergeron and Marchand bring to the team, and Chara, of course. But if you look at Rask's numbers in elimination games, I think they're some of the best of all time. I remember reading an article that his numbers in like game sevens or elimination games, like this guy's rocking like a sub-2 GAA, right? Wow. So I think the identity of Boston changes a lot without Tuukka Rask. That being said, I mean, like I said, back to the Linholm deal, this is, like I think Kyle said, put it perfectly. I think they're doubling down on their strength, which is we're going to suffocate you. And if we can't suffocate you, we're going to hit you. So that's the sign. And it's more of just, this is a Boston Bruins defenseman, right? So longing for the Chara days, I assume.
Yeah. Moving along, arguably the biggest blockbuster of the whole trade deadline, albeit I'd rank it slightly below what I consider the blockbuster. Florida Panthers acquire Claude Giroux, Jermaine Ruptsov, Connor Bunnaman, and a 5th round pick for Owen Tippett, a 1st, and a 3rd. Kyle was going out the wahoo 2 days ago about this trade. Explain why you're so fired up about this one.
Wow. So if Florida overpaid for Sherratt, they got a steal on Claude Giroux. I think, especially because that first rounder is a 2024. Who the hell cares about 2024 for this team? This is Claude Giroux. This is a first line player. This is a guy that's going to change everything. Like this team is formidable, a completely formidable up front now. Like this is crazy. They had a ton of leverage because he only wanted to go to Florida. But like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like this is going to be this is the best offense in the league, bar none. This is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, like what else can you say? I mean, like, they got him for a great price. And like you said, I agree. There was definitely some leverage there, which, makes the work of Florida's GM a little less, we don't allow them that much for it. But the fact that the simple fact of the matter is they have Claude Giroux playing in what is likely to be like a second line role, in addition to Barkov on the first line. This guy can play up and down the lineup. He can play on the power play. He's great defensively. His analytics are all in order. He's an amazing player, and they just made a team that's incredibly dangerous offensively, even better. And they're probably better defensively now too. And that's one of the areas of Florida's game where a lot of people and I've read that one of the soft spots that Florida has is their forwards aren't very good defensively. Some of them, notwithstanding Barkov. He's great. I didn't mean him, but some of them. Mm-hmm. This just shores them up down the middle, and they're a formidable opponent, right? And with Florida, it's all going to come down to can the defense and can Bobrovsky not shit their pants? That's what it's going to come down to, because they can outscore anybody. That's why I think like a Leafs Florida first round, or even that series, they would be like, do you remember that Pens Flyers series some years ago? Like 5 every night. Brizgalov led in goals from the blue line. Like that's how I envision that series, which would be incredibly fun. And that's what makes it a crapshoot. But you can't say anything more about that's a great deal from Florida. Good for them. Claude Giroux is amazing.
That series would be even more fun than Toronto Tampa in my mind, because
I agree with you.
It would be such a track meet.
Because Tampa and Toronto can still play defense with each other, and Vasilevsky's not going to let him 5 goals a game. Jack might, but Vasilevsky won't. But if you play against Florida, both goalies are, the way Jack's playing right now, that game, it would be a 6-5 game every night. And it would be amazing for the casual hockey fan to watch that.
Yeah. An underrated bit about Claude Giroux on Florida, he can move to center, and then you can have Barkov, Giroux, Sam Bennett down the middle if you want, which is crazy.
Yeah, nuts.
And then you've got Sam Reinhart, a third line player, fucking getting a point per game this year. Mason Marchment, I know you know that name. He's doing great on your third line as well. It's crazy. This is a great team.
Well, to Joe's point, with the exception of goaltending, like I maintain Florida will probably not get out of the first round.
I cannot get behind that.
I see that goalie shitting the bed yet again. I have zero faith in him. I don't like you give me Florida against Toronto, Boston, or Tampa. I'm taking the field.
Are you kidding me?
I'm taking the field easily, and I'm not even losing sleep. I'm not even losing sleep.
That's not a bad take, and I'll tell you why. Like a lot of these teams, this is not even just like a hockey thing. This is just like sports in general. A lot of these teams that like they get a lot of these stars at the deadline, and then they're like, oh look, they're going in, they're going to win the cup or the championship. Sometimes you have so many stars in one room and so many things in one room, and all the expectations and the weight on your shoulders, you just like collapse. And this is in conjunction, specifically with Florida, that Bobrovsky is a known sieve in the playoffs. Like there's no debate there. He's an awful playoff goalie. Florida is not the greatest team defensively either. I mean, they're okay, and combined with that goalie, like I don't see like if it's, you're right. If it's between like if I was a betting man, which I am, if it was Florida versus the field, Toronto, Tampa, even if like a team like Pittsburgh fell into the wild card spot.
Oh yeah, I'd take Pittsburgh.
I take the field. I take the field because you know what? They can score, but if Bobrovsky is like fucking playing the way he normally does, and just like that general, I don't know what to say about Florida. They're just like such an irrelevant franchise. Like no one gives a fuck about them. So it's just like, there's no passion there. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like, I don't know. I agree with you, Nick. It's not.
I don't think they have the identity of Tampa or Boston.
No.
And I believe more in the star power on the Leafs to beat the Panthers.
It would be interesting, and I'll tell you, and especially they would be amazing. I want to see them play, like if they because they likely will probably play Boston or Washington. I would probably if it was just straight up, I'd probably take Florida because I don't think the Caps are very good.
Yeah, they're trending in the wrong direction.
Yeah. But Boston, like that's a completely two contrasting styles, and we've seen so many times in the playoffs where you have an immovable object meeting an incredibly skilled team. And I don't have to run down, Leafs, Montreal, Islanders, Caps a couple of years ago, Islanders, Pittsburgh last year, although that was directly Yari's fault. You lose because sometimes you can't play into the hands of that team, right? So I agree with you. That's an interesting point.
I can't wait to hear your playoff predictions, because I'm very much on the other side of the fence here.
And Kyle, I'll link you a great article. I read it the other day. It was all about Jonathan Huberdeau. It's an article just about Jonathan Huberdeau. And it's basically a whole argument. It's a whole essay about how this guy should not be in the Hart conversation. And
I've seen that mumbo jumbo.
And the reason why is because like as talented as he is, a passer and all that shit, like he's going to lead assist through the wahoo. He remains one of the worst defensive players in hockey.
He's awful defensively, and I know Dom was
in playoffs. That matters most. And I'd rather have my Selke winner, Austin Matthews, on my team.
Well, listen, Dom.
Please don't get into that, please.
Dom, no, we're not going to get into that. But Dom Chisholm put it right. Like, how can you? Like this guy gets a lot of points, but
that guy is an idiot.
No, he's not. Huberdeau,
Yes, he is.
Huberdeau is inept defensively.
No, he's not.
He is though. Like statistically, he is. Like there's no getting around it.
Guys, he's a winger. What, like, how much defense does this guy play?
Well,
how can you place defense on a winger?
Well, what are you talking about? Marner, like guys like Marner kill penalties.
Okay.
You can. How many times over the years did I hear from people just like you, Kyle, about how Nylander is lazy, he can't defend, that's why he'll never be in the playoffs. But somehow we're letting Huberdeau, who granted is an excellent offensive talent, play sloppy ass, terrible defense, and we're just going to let him get away with it because of the fact that he plays for Florida and not Toronto or another Canadian team. Is that what we're doing?
Nylander's sloppy, shitty work ethic, it stems from his battle effort in the corners, not his defensive.
That's not necessarily true because he lit up your team in the playoffs last year, my friend.
Well, that's because he didn't have Ben Sherratt and Shea Weber coming down on him.
Well, imagine what would have happened if Tavares was on that line.
Probably not much different.
I completely disagree because Nick Suzuki sucks, but we'll move on from that.
Yeah, one more point on Florida. The one position I think they really needed to get a backup goaltender, they didn't address, right? So you have Bobrovsky, who we've talked about at nauseum.
You just raved about Spencer Knight.
I didn't rave about him. I said he was really good last. I said he was very good last year. Okay. But who's to say he'll do that again? I'd have more trust in a veteran. You know, I'd have more trust in Semyon Varlamov is my backup than Spencer Knight. So they failed to address that, and so that's why Florida. I think they're getting maybe a little too credit for their deadline. But we move along.
They're going to be unbelievable.
Okay, huge deal coming up here, and why I am repping this jersey as we speak. The Toronto Maple Leafs acquire Mark Giordano, Colin Blackwell for 2/3, 2022 and 2023, and a third rounder in 2024. Joe, you get the honor here. How did Kyle Dubas do with this trade?
I mean, I don't think you can say anything bad about this deal. I mean, you got a guy that Giordano, first of all, like before we even get to, like I said, I think the whole conception of character thing that you guys harp on is overrated. But I mean, Mark Giordano is a class act. The guy was a leader, great in the dressing room. Seems like the players are stoked to have him. He's been in big games. He's won playoff series. And above all that, like aside from the character fact, the fact is this guy can still play. He's great defensively. He can move the puck. He will be able to slot up and down that Leafs defensive pairing, and he can clear the front of the net, which is recently the Leafs have been having a bit of problems, some problems clearing the front of the net. He'll address that. And now if you look at the Leafs decor going into the playoffs, I mean, you know, you're going to have, you know, Riley, Brody, Muzzin and Giordano can be a shutdown pairing. And then a third defensive pairing of Hall, and you can insert Sandin, Liljegren, Lyubushkin there. That is an extremely deep, versatile decor that I think they haven't had in the playoffs in the past, which will be interesting. And, you know, this also sort of insulates them from, for example, well, what happens if the guy like Muzzin goes down again? Well, Giordano can sop up a lot of the role that Muzzin has had, being the guy that clears the front of the net. I don't know too much about this Colin Blackwell guy. However, I did look at his analytics, and Dom posted his player card. It seems like he's a really good, he doesn't provide much offensively, but he'll bring some sort of defensive responsibility to that Leafs fourth line. And the fact that, you know, Dubas was able to get both of these guys for 2 second-round picks and like a third, when a plug like Ben Sherratt went for a fucking first-round pick, and Giordano is a much better defenseman at this point in his career at 38 years old than Sherratt has ever been. That is, I think, fantastic for Kyle Dubas. And I can't say anything, I always thought that Giordano made perfect sense. And I was talking about this for months, is that they should go after something. They should be Giordano, local kid, hometown boy, Italian, you know, what more do you want? Right. And, I think he did an excellent job. I was a big fan of that trade. And I know you are too, because I know you're a big Giordano fan, Nick.
Oh, I'm actually more of a Colin Blackwell fan. And I do like Gio. I do. My hope is he can keep up with the pace of the Leafs, the way they want to play. You know, that's my only, concern. Can he keep up? I hope the body can keep up, because he is getting old. That said, he's only like 3 years removed from a Norris Trophy winning season. So that's not even that long ago. So I think if you play him with the right partner, you don't play him 25 minutes a night, play him 20 minutes a night, I think he'll be fine. I think what they get here, the Leafs, what they get here is two incredibly high hockey IQ players, which in the playoffs really matters. Like Giordano, may not be the fastest guy on the ice, but damn, his mind probably races as fast as any defenseman. And this Blackwell guy, Joe, just so you know, his biggest asset is his hockey IQ. Extremely smart, always knows where to be, great hockey sense, makes great reads, great passer, very skilled player. You're going to love him. Like I said this when the Leafs got Jack Campbell. Okay. No one knew who Jack Campbell was. I said, he's going to be great. People are going to love him. People are going to love Colin Blackwell. He's going to get an extension. He is going to be a fixture for this Leafs team for the next 3 years. I'm calling it right now on the show. This is more than just a rental. Like, this is legit. And Dubas today, when they interviewed him at his press conference, he said, I've been trying to get this guy for a while. That's what he said. And he said he couldn't get him, but he finally got him. And I'm very happy they did. So I don't see this guy as a guy who's in and out. I see this guy as he could be a fixture. He can be a staple on that third line. I know they already like their third line, but I guess Kasha's injured now. So they got to work around that.
And I think a lot of the deadline moves for Dubas was sort of changed. I think because he heard today that Kasha's injury isn't going to be too bad. And I have a strong suspicion that once he heard that, he said, I'm not going to spend any more cap space on a top 6 forward because Kasha's going to be okay. I did think that if Kasha was out for long term, they would have definitely have to have addressed the top 6 because you can't go into the playoffs with Kerfoot playing your left wing on the second line again. And I think the second line now is going to be some sort of combination of Tavares, Nylander, and you're going to have Kasha there. And I think you can't possibly break up Matthews, Marner, and Bunting. That's like probably the top, at least a top 3 line in the NHL. Like it's amazing there. And, I was happy with that move, and it's great to hear about Blackwell. I didn't know too much about him.
You're going to love him. I just
thought his defensive acumen seems to be really, really high. And there's some things in the playoffs where the Leafs have had, and there's like just little split second decisions where that changes a game, don't put over the glass. And I think I agree with you. I think he'll probably play on the fourth line because that Kampf, McCabe, and Engvall line has been amazing.
Yeah. You don't want to break that.
It's amazing how much Kampf has changed the dynamics of not only the penalty kill, but their defensive effort in their own zone at the end of the game with him there. So, but honestly, if you throw him on the fourth line with Spets, and if you have Kerfoot even centering that line, that's a pretty good fourth line.
No, for too long, guys like Clifford and Simmons have not been carrying their weight. I think they're very displaceable.
I love Wayne, but at the end of the day, this is a meritocracy, and just because you're from Scarborough and you're a fan favorite doesn't mean you get to play in the playoffs. And I would certainly rather have someone like Blackwell, Kerfoot, and Spezza who can still score play on that fourth line. So I agree with you.
Kyle, did Kyle Dubas fuck up on his deadline?
No, I think he nailed this one in particular.
Nice.
This one, it's a great deal. Giordano makes a lot of sense. And I know Blackwell very well from his days in the Rangers. He actually
played with Lafreniere, right? He assisted the game winner.
First game
against Buffalo.
Yeah, correct. And this guy was like, this guy played second line at times for the Rangers. Like he's all over the place. Like he's a water bug. He's a small player, but high energy and a very smart player. So
Harvard educated too.
Very underrated
Energizer Bunny in his press conference.
I don't know how much of an impact this Mark Giordano will have, whoever this guy is, but can't be all that bad. Can't be worse than what they got right now.
Well, and I think the amazing thing is they didn't have to give up a first in this deal, right? For the longest time, like Dubas was like, I'm not giving up my first.
Yeah, who's running the Kraken?
Ron Francis.
He's an idiot.
Yeah, it has not been great, but hey, they got a lot of picks now. They've been making a lot of deals. They got a lot of picks. Yeah. Now they got a hit on them, right?
They got fleeced.
Picks only matter if you can hit.
We'll just say that they weren't. They're not Las Vegas. Let's just say that.
No.
Ouch.
No. Yeah, they got absolutely fleeced here.
Oh, brutal. I couldn't believe it. Like I was in the store and I saw that. I'm like, how? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah,
I thought for sure, like the Leafs had to send.
Oh yeah, or not the Leafs. Like I figure anyone, like if the Leafs were going to give them a first, I figure they could have got a first from someone else, especially when you see what Chirot went for.
I fell for this fake troll account that said that the Leafs traded a first-round pick, a second-round pick, Dermott and Matthew Nyes, and so did Doug Gilmour, and Doug Gilmour retweeted it.
Holy shit!
Tweet. I would have punched a hole in my wall if that happened, but. Good on Dubas, I'm glad we're all in agreement on this, especially when it comes to the Leaf, which usually doesn't happen. So We'll put this as a ring loose first.
And moving on from there, the Leafs make another deal. It's the similar to Tyson Jost, a young player who they had high hopes would really flourish in the Colorado organization. I think it's safe to say 3 or 4 years ago, the Leafs had the same hope for young Travis Dermott. Yeah. And it never quite paid out. Travis Dermott 4 years ago was going to be the next great Leaf defenseman, a top 4 fixture who was going to, move the puck, skate, and play that Sheldon Keefe style. And I don't know. I want Joe's take on this. It seems, to me, like he just never really attained that height. He kind of plateaued, and his potential was kind of cut short. So he's off to Canucks for a 3rd round pick. So there you go. What do you think of the end of the Travis Dermott era?
You know what? It sucks because I wanted Dermott to succeed so badly. Like he's a Toronto boy. It was always his dream to play for the Leafs. And he was sort of your quintessential Toronto kid, right? And I'm like, okay, wish the best for this guy. But as the years went on, like you could tell that this guy was never going to materialize into a top 4 defenseman, and that's what they hope for him. And unfortunately, I think his Toronto tenure will always be marred by that inexplicable Game 6 overtime spinorama against Montreal that inevitably cost the Leafs the game. And what I think at that moment, the series, as soon as that puck hit the twine, that series was over. That's how I remember him by now, unfortunately. And there has been a lot of great Travis Dermott, but like when he scored his first NHL goal against the Islanders, that meme of him with like his eyes, like he was like so happy. That was like him and Hall's first game. But yeah, I'm happy the Leafs moved on from him. And they really, to be honest with you, they didn't really have a spot for him now. With the addition of Giordano, like Dermott's not better than Liljegren or Hall or Sandin for that third, or Lyubushkin for that matter right now. So I don't think he could even play. So good for the Leafs, and I hope he gets a fresh start in Vancouver. Bieksa today stupidly said he thinks he could be a top 4 defenseman, which is absolutely hilarious because Bieksa has been ragging on the Leafs defense all year, and it's only until he becomes a Canuck now that he's okay, he's fine. But yeah, I'm happy we moved on from him, and I wish Derms nothing but the best.
Okay, to the biggest blockbuster of the day. Which I considered of the whole trade deadline, the whole week, because this one was the one that genuinely like shocked me. Of all, like the Giroux didn't shock me, like none, like those were all we all heard about those. This one actually shocked me. Marc-Andre Fleury to the Minnesota Wild for a conditional 1st round pick. The condition on this one being, of course, it's a 2nd rounder. But if Minnesota makes it to the conference final and Fleury plays in 4 games. Up until that point in the playoffs, that 2nd will turn into a 1st. I think that's the stipulation.
Do you know, is there any salary retained?
You gotta figure given Fleury's cap hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That said, I do know Minnesota's cap situation. Like it's flexible right now, but then as soon as next year, it gets really shaky because they end up taking on like the buyout money of Parise and Suter. And that all kicks in. So that's why everyone's saying this year is very win now for Minnesota, because starting next year, they're in salary cap purgatory.
Right.
So I don't know about that cap thing, but I guess it's kind of it's a moot point given we're past the deadline, and it's not like free money is going to give you any assets right now anymore,
No.
But yeah, no. So there you have it. I mean, Fleury, he ends up getting traded, which for people weren't thinking he was going to get traded because of the whole family situation. He only apparently his list was very short. Of teams he was willing to go to. One of those being the Leafs that he wasn't willing to go to.
Yep.
And so that surprised me, and B, it surprised me that Minnesota, like what a big move, like what a win now move. Like clearly you don't have it shows you have no faith in Cam Talbot, and you go ahead and make this deal. Yeah. So yeah, I was genuinely shook. This one got my attention today. It was the only deal today that really like got my attention. So yeah, what did you guys think?
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, honestly, like I think that trade was the trade that Dubas wanted to make, but he obviously didn't want to play for Toronto, as we know. He wasn't on his short list. And I think that's a great deal for Minnesota. They just solidified their goaltending for the playoffs. And say what you want about Fleury's numbers this year. I mean, he was playing in front of one of the worst teams in hockey in Chicago Minnesota's a good defensive team for the most part. And there's just like a magic to Marc-Andre Fleury in the playoffs, except against the Habs last year, to my demise, that I bet on them. But he's a quintessential playoff goalie, and I think that's a great trade for Minnesota, especially considering that they got half the salary had to be retained by Chicago. So
Okay,
yeah,
there you go.
for them. And if I were, and I guarantee you, if that was, for example, the Leafs on his short list, Dubas would have made that trade in a heartbeat. But it just wasn't in the cards. But no, good for Minnesota. I'm glad he is able to have a chance at winning a Stanley Cup, because he deserves it, and he's also just a great guy. Good character on Marc-Andre Fleury. So,
Do you guys have any idea what the whole drama is between Kyle Dubas making a comment about Davidson in Chicago? Like he made some sort of snide comment about like calling him out on unprofessionalism or something.
Yeah, like so what I imagine happened was I believe there was a trade in the works between Chicago and Toronto for Hagel, Fleury, a couple of some ridiculous asking price Chicago wanted. In any event, it wouldn't have gone through, because we know now that Fleury wasn't on his trade list. Those details were leaked to Dreger, and usually like trades that fall through, I guess the NHL code is, you shouldn't leak those trades. And Kyle Dubas made that comment saying, maybe I don't know why he did that. He shouldn't have done that. And then Kyle, the GM of Chicago, basically said, I'll have that discussion in private with Mr. Dubas to talk about that. So that's basically, it wasn't really much drama. It was just two, GMs throwing it out there. But, what are you going to do? Well, I like it. It's GM trash talking. We don't see that very often. So
yeah. I mean, it's a great deal for Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's also a great deal for Chicago, because let's be honest, this like Fleury would have walked, so they got a first rounder and he would have walked. But
you don't know. You don't know if it'll be a first. I mean, I actually wasn't impressed. Like I was convinced they would get a first for Fleury. I thought you'd get a first rounder for sure with no stipulations. Well, that's so the fact Minnesota has to get through like Colorado and Calgary to even get for that to even turn into a first round pick, I think speaks volumes.
Well, I think this they got a first, and that's it, because of Fleury's like honestly shitty no movement clause.
Yeah,
I think that fucked everything up.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing. Right. It's like they got a conditional first round pick for like a playoff goalie that has won Stanley Cups before, and conditional pick for that. But again, then you see the guys like Hagel going for 2 first round. Like it makes no sense. Like the market is so weird.
It's crazy. And a hot take, my personal hot take is with this trade, the Leafs completely lost their chance at a cup completely.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know how good Jack's going to be. However, the fact that Marc-Andre Fleury would even be on the roster would have been incredible, because that
literally solves everything.
I agree. I wouldn't. I think that would be. I guarantee you, man. If he wanted to come to Toronto and that was the trade, Dubas would have made that trade 100%. They could have easily fit that in under the cap. And Sandin is now hurt with a knee injury, so the LTIR room was there, but it's unfortunate. It is what it is. But like I said, I mean, I'm happy they didn't start spelling out picks for like fucking Varlamov. Fleury was the only goalie that I wanted them to trade for, and I think that would have been a great move for them. But was not.
Why would Fleury not want to go to Toronto?
I think there's a couple of reasons. I think first of all, like Nick was saying about his family, Minnesota is relatively close to Chicago, and I don't think at this point in his career he wanted to uproot them. Secondly, I think that he knew that going to Toronto, during the playoff season at his age, like there's going to be a lot of weight on his shoulders. And if I'm Marc-Andre Fleury, I'm like, you know what? Why would I want to go to that? I wouldn't. And you know what? Minnesota has a chance at winning the cup too. They're similar to the Leafs in terms of standings and chances at the cup. Minnesota's a big hockey market, but nothing's like Toronto or Montreal, right? So that's what I believe in. I don't think it was anything other than that. Those two things, I guess. And we'll never really know the reason why. So it's
and a third factor you could probably add is he probably sees the contention the Leafs have to get through to even get to like a East final. He sees the Atlantic and he's like, fuck that. That's whereas the West is a little more open. If you can avoid Colorado and Calgary, it's a little open.
Well, if you can avoid Colorado and Calgary, and you're flying, because none of
because those other teams aren't threats. Nashville, St. Louis, Minnesota, or Vegas, those aren't threats. Edmonton and LA, those aren't threats.
No, Yeah. And then
So I think he's thinking very forward. He's like, if I'm going to move away from my family, A, it's got to be close, and B, it's got to be for another chance at a cup. And I think he sees Minnesota as kind of like a sneaky dark horse. Maybe they can finagle their way into like a West final.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So we'll see. And I like the deal for them because I think that they're a very good team. I've always been high on Minnesota, but their goaltending has always been, a little rough around the edges. They've never really had a star goalie. This is the first time Minnesota has really had a star goalie. Dubnyk could never get them far. Talbot could not get them far. I'm very high on Minnesota now with this deal. So we'll see where that goes.
Why did Colorado try to do that? They should have done
Well, they're happy with their goal. I feel like in the last month or so that it's
Kemper,
really stabilized. Their goalie tending's really stabilized. Kemper started off not so good, but in the past month, he's been one of the best.
What's the difference between this year's Kemper and last year's Grubauer?
Honestly, I think that Kemper's a little bit more established.
Sure.
And honestly, it to me, it comes just down to health. If one of them, if Kemper can stay healthy, I think that the world is theirs, kind of thing.
Yeah, and
if he can stay healthy.
I was just thinking, I think if Colorado got Fleury, I think we could just hand them the cup.
Yeah, probably. Then you don't want a guy as established as Kemper as a backup,
No.
So that it would be an embarrassment of riches in too many areas. I don't know if they'd be able to do it, but yeah, no, that would be unbelievable for sure.
Yeah, because I was wondering, I'm like, Colorado too has always been criticized for not having the guy in net, and that would certainly be the guy, at least for this playoffs. So that was just the interesting spitball I had there.
Yeah, if Kemper does go down, you've got Francouz. So he's a serviceable backup. It's just it's a weak point, I'd say, is the goaltending depth, but
yeah.
And they always seem to go down. That's the thing. And Kemper's an injury-prone guy. It's very scary. It's very scary.
There's a lot of mirror similarities between the Colorado plight in the playoffs, aside from winning a round, and the Leafs plight in the playoffs. Someone always seems to go down in an inopportune time.
You know what, though? I don't know if the Leafs have had that excuse except for last year. Have they?
Well, Muzzin got hurt the year before, too, against Columbus. Remember Game 4, I think? He broke his knee toward the
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then Kadri being suspended the year before. It's been 2 years in a row, actually. So it's been a series of calamities for both teams in their respective.
Fine.
Well, regardless, to Kyle's point, I still trust Kemper more because, again, he's established. Grubauer kind of came out of nowhere. You kind of had the feeling it was kind of like a fluky, historically good season for him, and we're seeing that now with how much he struggled in Seattle. Whereas Kemper has always been a fan, he's just always been a name. His name holds weight, and I think his rounding into form right at the right time here. So we'll see on that front. Mm-hmm. Finally, two really quick ones. I don't want to spend too much time on these guys, but they probably should be covered anyways. A guy who was number one on TSN's trade bait board, Ricardo Raquel.
Oh God,
going to Pittsburgh. How is he going to fit alongside Sidney Crosby? This goes for a second rounder, Zach Aston Reeks, Dominic Simone, and Kale Klang. So a second rounder and 2 NHL players.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a perfect fit. Honestly, this has got, Brian Burke written all over it. This is a great player. Very, very versatile, perfect second line guy. Your top line's probably solidified, Gensel, Crosby, Rust, but this guy's going to find a home next to Malkin. Yeah. And good playoff guy, gritty, kind of feisty, in your face kind of guy. This is a great move. Very underrated. And I don't think they paid too much. To me, this is an absolute no-brainer. What I would have liked is maybe they get a little more defensive insulation as well. Mm-hmm. But this is an awesome move.
Yeah, they've needed someone to play alongside Gino for a long time. And Kapanen isn't it? He stinks.
He does.
And talk about a guy with no heart, just a fucking, anyways.
It's a bag of milk.
Yeah. Raquel is a great addition. He's going to be a good forward in the playoffs. He's a big boy. He can score. I think that's what they're looking for there. And Pittsburgh's sneaky good. I don't think anyone wants to play them in the playoffs. The only thing that can sink them is their defensive lapses and Yari playing like he did, because I remember we discussed this after our post-mortem show in the playoffs. That was one of the few series where you can legitimately say, and people like to blame the goalie, but that was one of the few series you can say that like Tristan Yari single-handedly cost them that series. They
100%.
would have beat the Islanders hands down if it wasn't for Yari.
100%.
So that's really the only thing that can stop them this year. That, and I'm not too crazy about their bottom defensive pairings, but they've really solidified their forward group. They're excellent defensively. They're like as a forward group, I mean, they're very good defensively. They can, and now, they're even more dangerous on the power play and with Raquel there. So yeah, and look at the return. It was nothing. Zach Aston Reese was a great defensive forward, but he could never score. He wasn't very good offensively. And Dominic Simone's a fourth liner. So you make that trade 10 times out of 10.
You know what's crazy too about this deal? I mean, Pittsburgh has a knack of turning guys of this nature into stars.
Yes.
Like a guy like Brian Rust can come to Pittsburgh and turn into Brian Rust point per game player.
Yep.
I can't imagine what Raquel can do. Like this has got a lot of good things written on it.
Dude, they have lineups at the start of the year where they're injured with like random fucking people, and they always just like fucking win. Like it's insane. Like there's guys whose names that you think are just like NHL rando generator names, and they just show up and play.
Yeah.
I think like, and this Raquel guy, it's not like he's a rando guy. He's good. Like he was on my radar for a long time with the Leafs. Like I wanted to get him too, but couldn't make the money work. But this is an excellent trade for Pittsburgh, who's already a very good team. They're a top 10 team too. I think they're like a couple of points back of the Leafs. They're a top 10 hockey team in the league.
Honestly though, to me, very, very hard team to read in terms of making a playoff prediction.
They are, and
very hard.
And I think it's tough too, because they're gonna have to play the Rangers or like possibly Carolina, and if they fall into a wild card spot like Florida, like that.
Oh God,
those are tough match. And like I think like in terms of their forward groups, I would take Pittsburgh's all day over the Rangers. Is just Shesterkin is
correct.
Incredible.
Correct. I mean, Jari's the big wild card. Obviously, he's had an amazing season, but he was good last year too and completely fell apart. So who the hell knows? Who the hell knows?
No one can predict them. They're a very weird team to predict.
Every year I bet on them to go very, very deep, and they've lost in the first round. I want to say 3-4 years in a row now.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're still, I mean, I still wouldn't want to face them. I would avoid them like the plague.
Yeah. Because there is that X factor that we all know about, which is the two-headed monster that can turn it on. So
free with Letang.
Yeah.
And Jeff
Carter.
They're a team I'd happily like put some dark horse money on. I think they're plus 1,600 right now, which is pretty good value to the betting man. That is Joe.
That's not bad. Yeah, we should do Rink Moose betting.
Yeah, Rink Moose betting. Yeah. Well, last year I famously put money on 4 teams before the playoffs started. One of which was the Islanders, and I would have been a rich man if they went all the way. They went went to the conference final, and
I was hoping for your downfall. I hate the fucking.
Yeah. But no, there's a lot of good value out there. So I think that's a good idea. We can definitely make that.
That's why we're in the season, man. I'm really, really excited for these predictions. For this playoff prediction season. It's going to be unbelievable.
I will definitely join that show, but I refuse to make a prediction on the Leaf series. I can't.
Such a baby, man. Such a baby.
I can't do it.
Okay. And one last one. Again, this one kind of trickled in at the end of the day. Carolina got in on the action, and they acquire Max Domi from the Blue Jackets. Max Domi and Tyler Inamoto for Aiden Hreshchuk. What did you make of this? So Carolina is so interesting, right? Because they keep acquiring these tumultuous character kind of players like Tony D'Angelo, and now they go out and acquire Max Domi, who obviously has a checkered past. So is this just more playing up the narrative that this team is the evil team?
I don't think you can possibly see this as the evil team anymore, because I think they're allowed to and able to do stuff like this because Rod Brindamore is such a presence, and he wouldn't tolerate any nonsense anyways. So I think the room is under wraps, and I think that's why they're able to make moves like this. I think it's a good move. I don't even know who this Hreshchuk guy is.
No, I don't either.
So
Yeah,
if you can get Domi on like your bottom six to even as like a pest, like to muck it up a little bit, you don't even have to ask him to score. I think that for that very reason, it's a good move.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, they needed to do something. A lot of people were giving them shit that they hadn't done anything. So
what I think is cringy is that like Carolina has Kotkaniemi and Domi now, which I think is just cringe.
Yeah.
Like the Montreal scraps that.
Yeah. And like
what are you doing?
Yeah. I listen, I think Max Domi is a good like shit disturber. Like and for who they traded nobody's like go for it, Carolina, but it's like yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he's a very tumultuous character. He's I don't think he was as bad as D'Angelo, but he's still a bit of a fucking clown. But like you said, I think there's so much like leadership in that room, and Brendan Moore's a great coach, so I think it's a good move for them. Like you can never have too many pests in the playoffs, especially if you're playing like a team like Boston, who you very well might meet in the first round. You got to outpest them, right? Sure. So there's nothing wrong with that, I think. And Carolina is also in that might be a little bit of a reactionary trade too, because I think they're mired in the middle of a 4-game losing streak now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They are, yeah.
And they've been playing some really some un-Carolina Hurricanes like hockey. But we talked about this, Nick. I mean, at some point, Freddie Anderson is Freddie Anderson, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
No, I continued come playoffs. I do not have faith in their goaltending. For the regular season, sure. He's always been a great regular season goalie. Yeah, I predicted he'd be great. I took him in fantasy and it's been great for me, but I maintain in the playoffs. I think he's got the bugaboos. I truly do.
Aside from last year's regular season, which he was actually awful.
Yeah. And even against the Leafs, like it just in games where there's a lot of emotion and drama in them, like when he comes back to play the Leafs a week ago, like he just doesn't look himself. Like he kind of like he looked awful.
And like that Mikheyev goal strap. Like, how many times I've seen that?
Joke.
I've seen that so many times. And that's what did that. Speaking of a team that maybe should have traded for Fleury, Carolina, who knows?
Sure. Okay. And then lastly, this one just feeds more my selfish desire. All day, I was waiting patiently. What would my Vegas Golden Knights do on trade deadline day? They got to do something. And nope, they stand pat. No sexy goalie acquisition. No sexy forward or defense acquisition. No, they trade away Evgeny Dadonov for some cap space. They get the Ryan Kessler contract, John Moore, and they trade away Dadonov and a second round pick. It's alleged that the cap space they save will be around $3.375 million. So you can only imagine that's to help get these guys like Stone and Pacioretty back in the lineup if they can. I guess that's what they see it as. It's like our trade deadline acquisition is getting Mark Stone or Pacioretty back into our lineup, and if we have to clear cap to do that, we're going to do it. So there you go. That's the move they make. As of 5 minutes ago, they've lost 3-0 to the Minnesota Wild, shut out yet again. This team is struggling. They're reeling.
They're in trouble.
Yeah,
dude, I love that.
They're in trouble.
They're in trouble. I mean, could you imagine?
I really love that.
Could you imagine at the start of the year where we were like, Edmonton and Vegas might not make the playoffs this year? Like, it's nuts.
My God. Oh, you know what's good though? I didn't notice this, but Eichel's not injured anymore.
No, he's been playing the last 2 games.
I've totally missed that.
He's just not scoring.
I got to ask I know you're not the biggest Austin Matthews fan, but you got to admit that Jack Eichel is a team killer.
He's a problem.
He's a problem.
He's a problem.
Like Matthews is nowhere near that. Like, I don't think he is at all, but you can't put them on the same level in terms of team killers.
Right. Yeah. There's something egotistical about
I don't know
Eichel
what's wrong with him.
Yeah.
Like even after that comment after the game, first of all, I believe they just got pumped 5-1.
Yeah. Right.
And he goes on and chirps the Buffalo fans who've done nothing but support that fucking rancid ass organization for 5 years.
Yeah. And
like, well, what the fuck is that, Jack? Like,
you know what though? It also, if you looked at the highlights of that, it looked like the Buffalo players didn't really like him.
That might be true. Like I've heard he's a prick.
Like it didn't get a warm welcome from them. I saw even I forget his name, but some depth guy on Buffalo like kind of mocking Eichel after the faceoff by rolling his neck.
Oh yeah.
Like, man, like Cody Eakin was his name. You must really not like this guy to pull that. Like that, there's no respect there.
No,
Like
it's
and you have to wonder why. So
And that man was your captain for like 4 years.
Yeah.
So you know,
there's something behind the scenes. I don't think this is a leader.
Well, Nick, what do you
think.
think? You're a Vegas fan.
Oh, I love the delivery. He was like, it only took 7 years and me leaving and getting to the game. It was awesome. It was awesome. It was great TV. But here's the interesting thing: as a guy who follows this team every day, I watch all their media availabilities because, of course, I'm obsessed with Pete DeBoer, and
It's an unhealthy obsession at this point.
Jack Eichel, he hasn't had a single media availability since those comments.
Yeah,
wow. He refuses to meet the media. He's just a sore loser. So there you go. His character issues have prolonged into Vegas, and they I mean, I look at the standings. Dallas now has 4 games in hand. So Vegas has played 65 games. Dallas has only played 61, and Dallas is 1 point behind them. And then don't look now, but the Winnipeg Jets, Kyle's Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah,
they have two games in hand on Vegas, 4 points back, and tomorrow night, huge game in Winnipeg, Winnipeg. So that's Vegas. Tomorrow is the Jets season is on the line tomorrow.
According to this is I don't like using this, but it's the only available one I had. I mean, I forgot my Athletic login account on my computer, but it looks like Vegas right now has a 58.2% chance of making the playoffs after tonight. Winnipeg's got a 9% chance as of tonight. So I don't think it'll be tough for the Jets, but beating Vegas tomorrow, like I can't imagine their playoff chances being above 50% if they lose against Winnipeg.
Yeah, like Winnipeg's done if they lose tomorrow, but if they win, then you're 2 points back with 2 games in hand.
I will certainly be rooting
for that's incredible.
I will certainly be rooting for Vegas.
Of course.
Yeah. But no, it's going to be interesting, right? I said they should have got a goaltender, and now, Leonard, they don't know what his injury status is. And now you're rolling with this Thompson guy and Larry Boissois.
Is it not also, criminal that the Oilers didn't inquire about a goaltender?
Criminal.
Why?
Oh my God.
There's no, it just baffles me because it's like, okay, first of all, we knew going into the year with that defense core, they were going to need goaltending. I mean, we all knew looking at that defense core, even on paper, Barry, Ceci, Duncan Keith, these guys weren't going to be good. Now you've had that problem. They're playing better now, admittedly, but they're good. They Koskinen and Mike, and my feelings on Mike Smith. They stink. I don't understand how they could do this to McDavid. That poor guy. I don't get it. And at least, and it's different from the Leafs situation where it's okay, yes, Jack has been playing terrible for months, but you saw a body of work in the playoffs last year where he was very good. Koskinen just sucks. There's no history of him being good. So I don't know. I don't know why. What was Ken Holland thinking? I don't get it.
It's horrible decision making. I am so frustrated by the Oilers management.
Yeah, you got to be
because you want to see them in the playoffs. Everyone does, but it's
I don't. But I would like to see McDavid succeed.
That's right. And that would be primetime television, except for fucking what it was last year, which was a righteous mess.
A gong show.
I don't get it. They got to fucking. It's not hard to I don't think it's that hard to make sensible moves.
No.
I don't know. Yes, juggling the cap and relationships and all that is difficult, but the stuff they've been doing, decision making wise, is so bloody questionable.
Why go after your defense is but they go after Brett Kulak and I'm just okay, but I don't know. Maybe they could have even if I were them, I would have even tried to say, you know what, Anton Forsberg, come to fucking Edmonton. He's a decent goalie.
Just anyone,
Georgiev. They should have
picked anybody.
They should have picked up Mrazek. Seriously, he can't be worse than Koskinen.
No. It's a terrible tandem they have there. It's they're not doing what must David be thinking right now? It's just not doing him justice.
McDavid is thinking, I can't wait to go to Toronto in.
Oh my God.
Oh boy.
How do you have faith in this tandem? What is Ken Holland thinking? Like
See-
it's been time after time. How many
Yeah,
playoff
it's-
runs do you have to? How many exits after the first round do you have to go to realize this isn't going to cut it? Mike Smith's not going to cut it.
Mhm.
And it's like clockwork. It's like every year they start off, they're
Yeah.
hot in the power play,
Yeah.
they start scoring. Then in the middle of the season, they start losing a bunch of games because they can't get a save, and then they'll start coasting their way to the playoffs, and then in the playoffs they're just going to get lit up. Who are they set to pay in the first round right now if it's season ended today?
Oh boy, let's see.
LA, which they might actually beat. That's a pretty good matchup.
They'd beat LA.
See, you think they would, but like, do you trust a Koskinen versus Jonathan Quick matchup?
I don't know.
Honestly, like LA, they've been a nice surprise this year, and that. But I think that's a matchup where I think a superstar like McDavid can really break open.
Right.
You know,
I know Quick's kind of old now.
Quick's lost his job, Joe. It's Cal Peterson manning the net there in LA.
Oh, was it Cal? Yeah, I haven't.
Who's great. Cal Peterson is like infinitely better than those two guys. So to answer your question, no, Edmonton goaltending wise does not match up in that matchup.
That's scary, is it not? Like if you're like, or you know.
Oh, they're done. Yeah, like they're so ready to be blasted out after one or two rounds. Like it's going to be another disappointing postseason if they make it.
But we're all just counting down till he comes to Toronto, anyways. So
no, he wouldn't do that.
Oh, I don't know about that. I submit personally that if there was no salary cap, he would be on the Leafs right now.
Come on,
you know it, and I know it. He's a big Leaf fan. Grew up as a Leaf fan, and the funny thing is, I just like I feel so bad for him, but the pressers after the playoffs and his grumpy face when they lose, like it's just not to mention compounded by the fact that you're living in Edmonton. Like he must hate his life. I don't blame him.
Yeah, Edmonton's nice. I like Edmonton.
You have a very large and liberal definition of of the word nice.
Well, they're locked in a tie with Colorado right now, so they're killing it.
Yeah, okay, we'll see.
We'll
But
see.
no, I mean, I was going to wrap up this show by asking you guys winners and losers, but I think Edmonton's a good way to just talk about the losers. They're my loser. If I had to pick another one, I'd probably go Vancouver. I think Vancouver, they're kind of a weird team that's kind of caught in limbo. It's like we can't compete. We're not quite there yet with those other teams, but we also didn't make the decision to sell. They could have gotten a big package for JT Miller. I do strongly believe that. And by not pulling the trigger today, I think they missed out on an opportunity. It's like, why are you keeping this guy if you're not going on a run this year? They're clearly not going to go on a run. So why did you keep him? You could have got like 3 first-round picks or something like that for JT Miller.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I don't get what Vancouver's doing. Like, again, this market's weird, but if Brandon Hagel went for 2 first-round picks, what do you think someone would pay for a guy like JT Miller?
Insane.
And the weird part is like, it's just like, again, like what direction are you headed in? You guys can't compete. Might as well just see what you can get for him. And they didn't do it. Huge losers.
I'll say my loser is probably the Senators for making one of the biggest head scratchers and getting Travis Hamonic.
Pierre Maguire's trade deadline debut.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Travis Hamonic for a third, like a 2022 third.
Like that.
For a horrible defenseman.
Like, why are you adding
what is that about?
Why would you trade any draft capital at all for him?
Kyle, it's such a Pierre move. It's like, I want that grinding big defenseman. I don't care about the salary cap repercussions. Just give me him.
It's a horrible.
Those poor people in Ottawa deserve better than Pierre Maguire.
They did make a good trade today, Kyle. They acquired Matthew Joseph from Tampa. I think that's a good deal.
That's a good one.
That's pretty savvy. It's pretty savvy move.
Speedy, he'll fit right in there. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, but I mean, those poor people in Ottawa can do so much better than a trio of, Melnick, Maguire, and Dorian.
Oh, they're so fucked. Dorian said this is the last trade deadline where they're going to be sellers.
Oh.
I don't buy that for a fucking second.
What is this, like year 25 of the rebuild?
They're like statistically they're worse this year in the standings than last year.
Yeah, last year
supposed to be better.
Last year I was worried about Ottawa this year because I'm like,
you have Stutzel this year. You have a growing Josh Norris and a growing Shabbat, and you're worse.
Is Stutzel a bust? Like, are we?
No, No,
No,
he's
I'm-
actually doing
no,
really
yeah.
well recently.
Is he playing better? Because at the beginning of the year, he was terrible. He had
He's
two
doing a
goals.
lot better.
He had 2 goals for like 3 months.
He's taken a knack for flopping too, Kyle?
He's
He's not
a flopper.
his rep around the league is not very good. He's
That's
not well
poor
liked around the
character.
league.
He
Yeah,
might
poor
be the
character.
biggest flopper in the league right now.
Yeah.
He probably is.
Other than Michael Bunting.
Correct.
You like Bunting, and you know you do.
Who does?
You
No, I don't.
love Michael Bunting.
No, I do not.
Bunting's like a guy where you hate him if he's not in your team, but you'd want him on your team. That's like
Oh
me
my
and Gallagher.
god, yeah.
I hate Brandon Gallagher, but God, would I love him on my team.
I can't say. Can't comment.
God, you're a
okay.
fucking asshole.
And one winner from each of you. So mine's I'd probably go Minnesota.
That's horrible.
Come on.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
It's the ballsiest move of the deadline. I think for me they get the winner prize.
I have 3 winners.
Oh,
Okay.
fuck.
I have Colorado. I think they got infinitely better. I have the Leafs with Giordano. I think that's exactly what their need is. And I have Montreal for managing to turn poop into gold.
It's incredible what
No,
that
yeah,
Hughes
like,
guy has done in his short time is pretty incredible.
Oh my god! And
They-
I can't
they-
believe
and
we had
we didn't
any.
We didn't even discuss the Arturi Lehkonen deal, who, by the way, is also another great trade.
What did they get for him?
I think it was like a
Justin
second.
Barron and a second rounder.
Yeah, Justin Barron was a first rounder, wasn't he?
He's a solid prospect.
Listen, Montreal, Colorado, and the Leafs are my 3 winners, and
Yeah.
I probably rank them in that order. And even
Oh
though
my
Montreal isn't
God.
making the playoffs this year, I hate to give credit to those losers, but like I said, poop into gold, man, poop into gold.
Yeah, they probably could have even traded like Jake Allen for like a second round pick, but
Oh my
but I
God.
guess they didn't quite want to go that far.
Well, they even got rid of Hammond, right? So
Oh, that
Yeah.
was a mistake. That was their worst move.
Yeah.
So I will go. First of all, I really loved the Rangers moves. Like I think they got Andrew Kopp, they got Tyler Mott, and they got Vetrano. And I don't think they gave out too much. They got rid of Barron and a couple second rounders, and that was only the only notable pieces they left. So they become more New York Ranger-y, which is great. Montreal, for all the reasons you suggested there. This Justin Barron guy is he's a really good defensive prospect. And then I will go to Florida because they got infinitely better. I know they paid a lot, but they did exactly what they set out to do. They got the best forward of the entire day, and they got a defenseman that is really going to help them. So I think that Florida's got to be a winner for me.
Yeah, and another thing to tack onto my Minnesota pick, another trade they made, which was too small to mention earlier, but I think it's a good one. So because they get the goalie in Fleury, they trade their backup Kakkonen and a 5th rounder to San Jose. And they end up getting that Jacob Middleton guy who the Leafs were really inquiring on. Apparently, he's like a really good top 4 defenseman, very underrated guy, and they end up getting him. So not only do they get an improvement on, not only do they get Fleury, but they also get a really good defenseman. So another reason to like them. And then another one, I guess another team we didn't quite mention, but I guess Anaheim did really well, right? Like they got a lot for Raquel. They got a good return for Manson. And all those guys are expiring contracts, right? So basically, instead of letting guys walk, they ended up getting great value, for basically guys who were going to leave them anyway. So kudos.
Yeah, they've completely gutted their defense, but
it doesn't matter when you're going for the lottery and you got, like, let's face it, all year they were a nice story, but they were never going to be a playoff team, right? So I'm glad that I'm glad that new GM went there and he realized, hey, this is cute and all, but we can't compete with those other teams. So let's just sell the farm.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good summation of it. But I think Anaheim. Yeah, I didn't even consider that. They got a lot. Like good for them, and they have a very good future. So.
Yeah. No, of course, and they'll be right there in the Shane Wright sweepstakes as well.
You know what? I think the jury's still out on their future. I think they've got a lot of work to do.
Well, once Gibson goes to the Leafs next year, we'll
yeah, exactly. Then they'll have to fill that hole.
Yeah.
I mean, that that kid they got coming up is pretty fucking amazing.
Who?
The guy who killed it in the World Juniors.
McTavish?
Peterborough Pete's Peter. Yeah, McTavish is a star. He's a star.
He looks good.
That was men versus boys.
Yeah,
Yes,
you know?
it was. Yeah.
I don't think people were. I wasn't expecting him to be this good. And then I saw the World Juniors and how he was dominating. And I was like, this guy's really good. This
I'm
guy
just
might
not
be better
sold
than
on Jamie
Zegras.
Drysdale. Yeah, he's the perfect player there.
Yeah.
But
no, and
I'm
I'd
not
agree.
sold on Zegras.
Yeah. Drysdale stumbled a bit, but as we know, defensemen take a little longer to develop, right? So I think we give him some slack.
Unlike
I
that
guess.
fucking loser Torts, I think Zegras is great for the game too.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Okay, well that does it. We're about at an hour and a half. Good show altogether, boys. I'm glad we kept things kosher here. No fighting across the screens there. No, Joe's not asking anyone to whack Kyle live on the air here.
No, we're good.
We're over
Can I make
that.
one more comment before we go.
Yeah.
Shane Wright sucks.
He does.
Like, he is terrible. And you know what's even worse, Nick?
Are his numbers really that bad? Has he not gotten better? I thought he picked it up.
Listen, put the numbers aside. I had a scout. I saw a scout say his effort level is not good.
That's not a good.
It's not a good sign, and he's not lying about it. Why would he lie about that?
I'm gonna tune into the CHL top prospects game on Wednesday, and I'm gonna see him light up the opposition, and then we'll talk.
This,
okay.
Having the CHL and TSN is amazing because sometimes they show the Frontenac's game and they'll show like Kingston, the general area around it.
Oh, nice.
Oh, fuck,
I like that.
That takes
and another thing, Kyle.
Memory lane.
Oh, I love that. That's great. And another thing, Kyle, they're getting the Overdrive boys to coach that game, the top prospects game. So O-Dog and the whole crew, they're going to be behind the bench coaching Shane Wright.
Imagine Shane Wright and like Al's brother taps you.
Al's brother's there too, yeah.
And Al's brother taps you on the shoulder and says, "Hey, you gotta jump and chase." I'd be like, "Who the fuck is this fucking fat asshole telling me what to do?" I'd be like, but no, I love those guys. They'd be it's actually great that they
were joking around that like O-Dog and Al's brother, they're gonna do like a Hitchcock, and at practice they're gonna do the morning skate, and O-Dog's just gonna be on the bench, like not skating but just pointing at what to do and stuff.
Are there any there's no better radio show in the country except for Wrinkles.
Yeah,
of course. Okay, well, hey, it was a pleasure to see you guys and come back for another edition. We hope you all enjoyed. Much more to come, as we've kind of alluded to throughout the show. We'll have the playoff chase coming to a close. We'll have fantasy playoffs coming to a close. Kyle is sweating at the brow as we speak, as he checks his fantasy results eagerly.
So am I.
Yeah, right.
This guy checked out like 20 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, I was done after I saw him. I'm like, I can't win. Fuck it, I'm done.
Stick to football.
Yes.
Yeah, stick to football. But yeah, no, thanks everyone for tuning in again. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and we hope you look forward to the playoff push. It should be a good one. So without further ado, thank you again. It's been a pleasure to serve you. Rink Moose is signing off.
I think that was a great episode.
I agree.
Good structure, like you're just boom, 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 trade to trade.
That was fantastic. There was no
hour and a half.
No brawls between me and Kyle. We kept it kosher. We kept the kids civil.
Exactly.
I think the playoff episodes are going to be a little more heated, but
the playoff prediction will be really, really fun.
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
That'll be heated.
When does your Articling term end?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So I go till June 2nd or something like that.
Oh fuck yeah! You see, you have an extra. You must have. Did you start later then?
I started first week of April.
Okay.
Or sorry, first week of August. It's 10 months exactly.
Yeah, so we started a bit late. Yeah, so I'm done May 20th, but
okay. So a week or two early.
We'll have to, and this includes you, Kyle. We'll have to get together soon for a drink in the city when Kyle's not traversing.
Oh my god, we were supposed to do it like 6 months ago, and
I know
shit fell through, and then lockdown happened.
Yeah, I'm 100% in. If you guys are ever in the city, let me know.
Yeah.
This time, preferably not an underground bikers bar where I felt like I was in episode.
That was awesome.
A more legitimate establishment this
Yeah,
time.
I know you. I know you like
Kyle's
you
not
like
traversing the Northern Ontario highways.
Yeah. No, for sure. We'll definitely, sometime before playoffs, we should definitely get drinks.
Are you going to
and
grad
then,
too, by the way? I forgot to ask.
Oh, I'm not even thinking about that right now.
I think I'm going to go. But
so that's like June.
June, yeah, late June. Kyle should come too. I want him to give me our diplomas.
Yes, I'll give a speech on behalf of you guys.
We appreciate it.
That'd be great.
I just hope we have like an in-person call thing. I think that would be more cool.
Yeah, that would be cool as well. I want to do Kingston because like the fucking call is like random people you don't even fucking know.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Queens is like this is like our class.
It'd be good to see everyone else again. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Especially given it ended all like fucking unceremoniously, you know.
Yeah.
No. Well, yeah. Are you excited for it to end, articling, or what?
Dude, I was telling Kyle, like this past month, I've been working like 60 hours every single week, and it's been brutal.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Like, guys, it's fucking, yeah. And then like we have like this week, it'll get better in April, but this week we have a trial. So
trials suck. It's so spontaneous. Don't you hate those spontaneous orders you get in a trial?
And it's like mid-trial, you'll be like, hey, can you go like look at this?
Like, I hate that shit.
Like I'd rather have like a task due at the end of the week than like a fucking like spontaneous, hey, I need you to go like fucking look
urgent research.
Urgent now. Right now, find this. Like fuck off, you know. But
yeah, I know. That's the life of an Arkling student, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately. All right, guys.
Student.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm gonna fall asleep. So we'll.
Me too.
We'll talk soon. This has been great, and we'll all get together soon. It's great seeing you guys.
Yes. Thanks for hopping on, Joe. We appreciate it on short notice.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
All right.
Good luck.
Okay,
Good luck
fellas.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Ciao.